It's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
It's time for the biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport. Let's join the team for the biggest show in the world of sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.
It's a very good evening, Zimbabwe. It's ZiFM Sport on a Monday. Hopefully you had a good weekend. There was lots of sport to watch over the weekend, meaning there's lots of sport to look forward to on the show today. The team is here. Mike Madoda, Chris Gray, we got Sean Tafirinika, our producer. My name is Barry Manandi. On the home front, football administrators, coaches and players who work closely with the late Dynamo's assistant coach Biggie Zuze, who passed on last Thursday, have described him as a humble and unsung hero who immensely contributed to the development of local football. In international sports news, Dustin Johnson produced some outstanding putting and enjoyed a few moments of good fortune as he clinched his first win in over 16 months at the Travellers' Championship.
We take you around the world in 60, starting off in New Zealand, where the Auckland Blues registered their third win in a row as they edged past the Otago Highlanders during the weekend, where the Waikato Chiefs coach Warren Gatland was left furious after his side's 18-13 Super Rugby Aotearoa loss to the Canterbury Crusaders in Christchurch. In England, West Indies players will wear the Black Lives Matter logo on their playing shirts when they face England throughout the upcoming Test series. And we touch down in the United States, where 2015 NFL MVP and free agent quarterback Cam Newton has agreed a one-year contract with the New England Patriots.
In the beautiful game, the FA Cup takes centre stage. Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says he's delighted with the way his young players are evolving as the Gunners fought their way into the semi-finals with a 2-1 win at Sheffield United yesterday. In La Liga, Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane has refused to get carried away after his side moved 2 points clear of Barcelona at the top of the table with a 1-0 win over Espanyol last night. In Serie A, Lazio fought back from a goal down to beat Fiorentina 2-1 to keep their fading title hopes alive. And in the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich legend and current club chairman Karl-Heinz Rummenigge has hailed Robert Lewandowski as the best striker in the world after the Poland captain. The Bundesliga Torschützenkönig for the fifth time in his career was also named player of the season.
The Warriors, the Chevrons, the Cheetahs, the Mighty Warriors, and the Sables. From the pool to the track to the field, we are Team Zimbabwe. The Home Front. Local sports news and analysis.
All right, now football administrators, coaches and players who work closely with the late Dynamo's assistant coach Biggie Zuze, who passed on last Thursday, have described him as a humble and unsung hero who immensely contributed to the development of local football. Zuze made his final stop at Rufaro Stadium yesterday as the football community gathered to pay their last respects ahead of his burial in Bindura today. The Dynamo's legend passed away at a private hospital after experiencing breathing difficulties. He is survived by his wife, Memory, and two sons, Brian and Biggie Taurai Jr. And in truth, there is no bigger truism spoken of the man than that he contributed immensely to football development in Zimbabwe, but also he was such a humble man, and perhaps because of his humility, he was a bit of an unsung hero, wasn't he, Mike?
Absolutely, Barry. And for me, Biggie Zuze, very approachable, knew his football, and I'll remember him fondly, Barry, for his time at Monomotapa as a coach, because we saw some of the best football that we have seen in our local game. That Mono Motapa side, the passing game, they could pass the ball, they could move the ball. Ronald Chitiyo then in his pomp, playing like an absolute beast, and they wowed and entertained. People talk about FC Platinum now, but I don't even think that FC Platinum have actually got to the stage that Mono Motapa was, even though they failed to put silverware in the trophy cabinet. But in terms of just entertainment, they were being called the Barcelona of our local league, and teams, they wowed the neutrals. The neutrals would go to Rufaro Stadium to go and watch Mono Motapa play, and we've never seen that for a small side, Barry. Small sides come in and they don't attract fans, they don't attract supporters, but Mono Motapa, the reputation went before them that they were an entertaining side, that they were a passing side, and there were a lot of neutrals that were now flocking to Rufaro Stadium and flocking to places where they were playing just to take in the action. So he was a good coach. He loved the passing game, passing and movement. I mean, it showed that he was a midfielder when he played, because that was his philosophy. As a coach, and obviously he had a stellar career with Dynamos, mainly as a player, because I don't think his coaching career with Dynamos ever really took off for one reason or the other. And I think that the pressure with Dynamos is that Dynamos is a result-oriented club, so they don't have the patience for you to actually blood in youngsters. They don't have the patience for you to actually try and instill a philosophy at the club, because you are judged more by results and what you're able to put in the trophy cabinet. And so that's why I believe that his coaching career at Dynamos never really took off. But he was such a fantastic guy, always good to give you an interview, always good to have a chat with you on the sidelines, and he'll be sorely missed in Zimbabwe football, and of course missed by the Dynamos family.
And I just want to stick on something that Mike mentioned there about the Mono Motapa side, and relate it back to what's being said of the man, because it's very easy to say that so-and-so contributed to the development of Zimbabwean football, and it just becomes a cliche almost, doesn't it, Chris? But in the sense of Biggie Zuze, you can see it in the transformation that he brought about in the football game, the game of football had, and then the fruit of it being the number of footballers who managed to then move out of Mono Motapa, go to different leagues. So guys move to the DRC, guys move to bigger teams even, and that is just as a result of the work that was done by Biggie Zuze.
Definitely. And I think development is one of those areas that's lacking in this country. And that's one of the reasons why he's going to be missed. Is it's a rarity now to find those coaches who are able to unearth players that we then see going to this country, the next, developing and going into other teams. We can credit him for Ronald Chitiyo, God knows Murwira. Those are some of the players that he unearthed, and just being able to do that sets him apart from some of the coaches that we have at the moment. And it's a skill I'm hoping he's imparted onto other coaches as well, because it's something critical that we need in our football at the moment. And I think that's one of the reasons why he's going to be especially missed, is that ability to take a player where you can only see potential and develop it further than that, and to see our players actually excelling and moving into different leagues as well.
His ability to step into the breach when required, for mainly Dynamos, in fact. I mean, look, when you've been a head coach at Mono Motapa, done the things that he did, you've been a head coach at Triangle, and then you come into the Dynamo setup and essentially come in as an assistant, then step into the breach when Lloyd Ntasa was shown the door as an acting head coach, and then retire almost into the assistant role once again. Again, it's demonstrable of the man that he was. He ultimately felt that football was the ultimate winner. You spoke about the conversations that you had with him, and we all at some point interacted with him. He was a football man through and through, loved the game, and it was the game that had to win. His personal ambitions, his personal desires, and however lofty or his objectives, took second fiddle to advancing the game. And so he was willing to play a role at whatever level, wasn't he, man?
Yeah, absolutely, Barry. And you talk about loyalty to the game. And I want to go one step further and say that he was extremely loyal to Dynamos. He was a Dynamo son through and through. And that's why he was able to basically decide, you know what, I'm going to be the assistant coach here at Dynamos. There are many people believe that he was not given a fair shake as a head coach at Dynamos, and that he was probably more qualified and better suited to the post than some of the people he served as an assistant. But that never let him, put on an attitude or decide to sabotage the team and so forth. He was always there, willing, of course, to whisper into the ear of the head coach, there with advice, and always there to put out the cones at training and do all the donkey work, as it were. So it's testament to his humility and testament to his love for Dynamos, that he was willing to serve the club in any capacity.
Willing to serve the club in any capacity. Sadly gone too soon. He was only 55 years old and in truth cut out in his prime. No doubt we were going to see a lot of great years ahead with Biggie Zuze and see that phenomenal passing game that he began at Monomtapa. We saw it at Triangle, of course, triumphing in that 2014 Net 1 Cup against his beloved Dynamos, in fact, in that final. But unfortunately, that has been stolen from us because Biggie Zuze gone too soon.
Hi, my name is Sean Williams, Zimbabwe cricket captain. You're listening to ZiFM Sport. Z.
All right, let's give you some local sports news updates, starting with cricket, with Zimbabwe Test cricket captain Sean Williams is delighted to be playing cricket again 2 weeks after the national team resumed training following a lengthy COVID-19 pandemic-enforced interruption. Cricket, classified as a low-risk sport, was given the green light to resume activities late last month by the Youth, Sport, Arts and Recreation Ministry. The national team began training a fortnight ago under strict safety conditions after all staff and players tested negative for the coronavirus, but only began skills training this past week. In athletics news, a number of South Africa-based Zimbabwean middle and long-distance male and female runners will remain idle for quite some time after Athletics South Africa opted against a return to competition despite the government approving the return of non-contact sport. A number of Zimbabwe's top road runners, including Olympian Rutendo Nyahora, Fortunate Chidzivo and Durudo Monderwa, are based in South Africa. The athletes have been making a mark for themselves for the past couple of years, but they haven't been able to compete since March following the outbreak of the coronavirus, which has forced the postponement or cancellation of sporting activities worldwide. And we wrap it up with horse racing, where pre-race favorite Lily Blue surged ahead to win the 2,400 meters Zimbabwe Derby at Borodale Park. The runner won the third Triple Crown race by 1.5 lengths to register her second win in as many races. Lily Blue passed this ultimate test of speed and stamina, once again beating the boys with consummate ease. Lily Blue is expected to face stiff competition from Wantage, who could only finish second. Zambezi Rapids and Seattle Frost were third and fourth, respectively.
Hi, this is Mike Madod, and you can catch me and the team for all the latest breaking news out of the world of sport, local as well as international, on your favorite station, my station, your station, ZiFM. We are Z-Team on ZiFM Sport.
Z. From the front of the grid to the back of the net, it's ZiFM Sport. International Sports News Roundup, where the world comes out to play.
This is ZiFM Sport. We're about to go international with our sports news, but just a reminder that we got the beautiful game a bit later on. We'll be taking a look at the title race in Spain, where Zinedine Zidane is refusing to get carried away, even though Real Madrid have now built up a 2-point lead on Barcelona at the top of the La Liga standings. But before we get there, let's give you some golf news, where Dustin Johnson produced some outstanding putting and enjoyed a few moments of good fortune as he clinched his first win in over 16 months at the Travelers Championship. DJ dropped shots on the 13th and 16th holes in Cromwell, Connecticut, but a 3-under par round took him to a 19-under overall. He held off the challenge of compatriot Kevin Streelman by a stroke. The world number 3 is only the third player in tour history to win a title in each of his first 13 seasons, joining Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. Johnson said he was proud to have won a PGA Tour event in each of his 13 consecutive seasons on tour. Let's hear from the Texan, DJ.
I putted it very nicely this week. Yesterday I did everything really well. Today, today I still felt like I was hitting the ball really well. I just wasn't driving it in the fairway, which around here, the only way to be aggressive and attack these flags is be in the fairway. And I didn't hit in the fairway enough, but I figured out a way to get it done. Obviously, it's a great streak, and anytime you're mentioned with those names, it's very good. And I'm definitely proud of myself for continuing the streak, and I want to keep it going. But it was a long time between wins, though, and so hopefully it won't be that long for the next one. Feels great to get that win. It's I was due, and I felt like I really put in some hard work the last couple weeks. I felt like the game was really starting to come together. Even though there's no fans here, you still can feel the pressure though, and probably the rain delay didn't help very much, because then I had time to actually think about everything. When I was kind of in the groove, I kind of got something going there on the back nine, and then had to sit and wait for an hour to go back out and play the last 3 holes, and just hit an awful shot on 16, but got it done coming down the stretch.
So Dustin Johnson joining illustrious names, Barry. I mean, Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods, that's the Hall of Fame right there. And no doubt DJ will certainly be following suit insofar as his accomplishments on the US PGA Tour are concerned.
Absolutely. And look, if there was any doubt of him being a Hall of Famer, that stat you just read last is it proves it to an immense degree. The one thing the DJ's got is the ability to hold it together when he's out front. And I say that because we've got the diametric opposite in Rory McIlroy, whereby DJ, if he puts together 2-3 rounds, if he goes into the final day with a shout, possibly leading, he's going to be able to close it out. You could see it on the 15th when he had to roll up his pants, take off his shoes, and hit that ball out of while you're standing in a pond. That's just the ability to hold it together, because another person will make the wrong decision and try and take a drop there, and possibly then go down for bogey or double bogey, and already that starts to make it difficult. Albeit that he bogeyed the next hole, that decision on the 15th makes you believe. It gives you that sort of instinct that this might just be mine. So DJ, for me, definite Hall of Famer, a man who holds it together mentally, and also his ability off the tee always gives him an advantage, always keeps him within it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got plenty of ability from the tee, Chris, but he didn't need it this past weekend, especially yesterday. I think he struggled from the tee, but what he had was his putter. It was going, and also his iron shots were absolutely fantastic, because some of his approach shots, they meant that he was able to transfer the pressure back onto his opponents, especially when, of course, he had hit those bad shots. Like Barry said, that he hit the one ball that was right on the edge of the water. He bogeyed the 13th as well, but he was able to recover with the next shot.
Definitely, and I think that's what makes up the difference, like Barry was saying. And also, if you take a look at his competition, you look at Bryson DeChambeau, he wasn't really able to mount a serious challenge over the final 18, and that's what makes the difference, is that ability to finish. McIlroy also making some really ridiculous mistakes that have impacted him throughout the tournament. So being able to put that pressure back onto his opponents, I think, is what eventually gives him that final lead in the finish.
Barry, he was tied, I think, 89th after day one, DJ, and not a lot of people would have bet on him to go on and win the Travelers Championship, but then he then struck that 64 on day 2, and then on day 3 on Saturday, he really ramped up the pressure when he scored 61. I mean, when you score 61, you really put yourself in the frame, don't you?
Moving day. That's why they call it moving day. Give yourself a good round on the Saturday, especially when you're well within the frame, having had a good round too. So I would agree with you to say that third round is what really did it for him. And it's the time that you put your good performance in. And that's what's going to get you the tournament wins. Perhaps lots to learn for the guys who are struggling at the moment, like your Rorys of this world, to say know when to put in the shift. 61 on day 1 is great, but more so on day 3.
Okay, let's just take a look at some of the upcoming events on the US PGA Tour. You've got the Workday Charity Open. That's at Muirfield Village in Dublin, Ohio. The Memorial Tournament is coming up also at the same venue from July 16 to 19. And then TPC Twin Cities in Blaine, Minnesota will host the 3M Open. Those are the next three tournaments. And Chris, you talked about Bryson DeChambeau. He was unable, of course, to come up with a meaningful challenge on the final day. But just in terms of consistency right now, he's the most consistent player on tour with 6 consecutive top 10 finishes. And heading into those tournaments that I've just talked about and the PGA Championship, which is coming through in August, that consistency could see him as one of the players to beat come the majors.
Definitely, and I think he's due a tournament now, and just working through that consistency and being able to go into each competition with those kind of finishes, I think first of all gives him confidence, puts some pressure on his competition, and also when he does manage to kick on and actually finish well, we'll be able to see him grab one of these tournaments.
Absolutely, and Barry, it's all about the PGA Championship, isn't it? I mean, that's on August 6 to 9 at TPC Harding Park, San Francisco, and that's what these players are building up to. It's likely to be played without fans, but as we have seen in the last couple of weeks, Barry, it really doesn't affect the players, does it?
No, it doesn't affect the players at all. In fact, some of them will be quite pleased when we start getting to those big events and a certain Tiger Woods comes back on tour. Without fans, it sort of evens it out. Yes, you still feel the pressure, you still feel the aura of the Tiger on the prowl, but to be playing in the same group as Tiger without the galleries that form around
it'll
him.
Be a lot easier, isn't it?
It'll be a lot easier.
Yeah, because
you'll take that any day.
Yeah, we've seen, I think last time when Tiger Woods won the Masters, he had a gallery of 120,000 people that were following him on the course. Just to put it into perspective for our listeners, that's 2 national sports stadiums filled to capacity on the golf course, following Tiger Woods everywhere he went, and that comes with pressure.
And cheering every single putt that he made. So if you're playing in that group, you're going to battle.
Hi, my name's Ryan Cairns, Sunshine Tour professional golfer, and you're listening to ZiFM Sport.
Around the world in 60 seconds. International sports news.
Around the World in 60 is proudly brought to you by DSTV. We take off in New Zealand, where Waikato Chiefs coach Warren Gatland was left furious after their 18-13 Super Rugby Aotearoa loss to the Canterbury Crusaders in Christchurch yesterday. It was the men from Hamilton's third straight defeat, and Gatland could not keep his frustrations in check when he lashed out at referee James Dolman. Gatland made it clear that the Crusaders should not have been awarded one of their 2 tries. The Auckland Blues, on the other hand, notched their 3rd win on Saturday when they held off a hard-finishing Otago Highlanders 27-24 at Eden Park. The hosts looked to be heading for a comfortable win after an excellent first half in which Caleb Clark, Dalton Papali and Rika Ioane all scored. However, the Highlanders came out firing in the second half, and the Blues had to dig deep to secure the win. We head over to England, where West Indies players will wear the Black Lives Matter logo on their playing shirts when they face England throughout the upcoming Test series. Cricket West Indies received permission to use the logo from Watford captain Troy Deeney, whose partner Elisha Hosanna created the design, which includes a clenched fist of solidarity within a circle. The ICC-approved logo has appeared on the shirts of all 20 Premier League clubs since the competition resumed earlier this month. We touched down in the United States, where 2015 NFL MVP and free agent quarterback Cam Newton has agreed a 1-year contract with the New England Patriots. Newton will join the 6-time Super Bowl champions in a deal worth up to $7.5 million, according to the NFL Network. The stylish quarterback led the Carolina Panthers to a place in Super Bowl 50 5 years ago and will challenge 2019 4th-round pick Jarrett Stidham and Brian Hoyer for the starting role vacated by 3-time MVP Tom Brady, who left to join the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on free agency.
Hi, I'm Clemens Matau, Chicanini midfielder. You're listening to ZiFM Sports.
The big leagues, the big teams, the big players. The beautiful game on ZiFM Sport. All the rivalry.
Here is Harry Kane for Tottenham. Oh, what a goal! A classic derby goal from Harry Kane. Catch him if you can.
All the stars.
Oh, back he is, Liverpool 2 in magnificent! Talk about impudent! Talk about improvisation! Talk about Sadio Mane!
And all the game-changing moments.
And Raheem Sterling rattles at home, and once more City are in front in a trice.
All the updates from the Premier League on ZiFM Sport.
It was FA Cup action this past weekend, and Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says he's delighted with the way his young Arsenal players are evolving as the Gunners fought their way into the FA Cup semi-finals with a 2-1 win at Sheffield United. It appeared the game was headed for extra time when David McGoldrick cancelled out Nicolas Pepe's first half penalty in the 87th minute. Arsenal responded with an injury time winner through Dani Ceballos, though, and head coach Arteta was impressed with the attitude of his young players.
I am really happy. We are back at Wembley. You know the history of this football club with this competition. So, yeah, I think the players deserve the win, the way they fight today, the attitude, and for some moments the way we played as well. And we know how difficult it is to win here. After the equalizer, the reaction, I really liked it from the team, so I'm really pleased today. I never fault the effort of the players. I think the way they are applying themselves is superb. You have to only see our front players, how they go to the pressing to every single ball. So I'm really happy with that. Sometimes it's about the way we compete or the way we manage the games, but as well we have a really young squad, and it's part of our process.
Arsenal making it into the semi-final draw, Chris, and you've got to say that it's welcome respite for the Gunners. They haven't played well since the resumption of the league, but at least they managed to find the mojo in the cup competition.
Definitely. It's great to see Arsenal picking it up where it matters. If they're able to actually win the FA Cup, they'll be able to qualify for Europa League, which is something I think they desperately need. I think in terms of Champions League, that's definitely not happening for them. But in terms of making it into Europa League, this is something they need. And it's great that they managed to grind out this win.
Two players that have come increasingly under pressure, Barry. Nicolas Pepe, because of the price tag, £75 million he was bought for. Dani Ceballos, he came from Real Madrid, came with a lofty reputation, and these two players on the score sheet for Arsenal in this game.
That's great that they're on the score sheet. I still have a massive challenge insofar as it comes to Arsenal, and I'm going to retract what I said last week, where I was a little bit iffy about whether it was going to work at Arsenal for Arteta, and I believe that it can work, but the players need to really G up. What am I talking about? Arsenal, even before the restart and then subsequently after the restart, Arsenal plays in fits and starts. They can start out with a banging introduction to the game, go for 20 minutes, and then fall away in the game. And that was exactly what happened with Sheffield United in this game, whereby they started all guns blazing, everything, the organization was spot on, ball movement was great, the application by the players was fantastic, and then they fell off in the second half. And that brought Sheffield United back into the game. Barring the fact that they had some bit of fight in this game, I think we could have been talking about a different end to the story. So it's great that they've done that. I would like to see players like Nicolas Pepe, Dani Ceballos. I would like to see the likes of even Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang and the likes of Lacazette come to the party more in terms of their application of the tactics of the coach and applying it across a 90-minute period. You cannot play.
But isn't this a game, Barry? Isn't this a game where we must give Arsenal credit, though? Because it looked like Sheffield United had the momentum. It looked like they'd struck a telling blow in terms of just the morale at Arsenal. It was a late equalizer. Everyone thinks that the game is headed for extra time. And then Arsenal were able to get over the disappointment, get over the setback, and score the winning goal. We've questioned their character. Surely this time we should give them credit for showing something.
No, absolutely. I'll show them character. If it sounded like I wasn't, I retract that and say that they certainly showed character. However, they would have not needed that character had they closed the game out, had they kept on the front foot as they had shown by the time they won the penalty courtesy of the challenge on Lacazette and then Nicolas Pepe banging it into the back of the net. So I think that they don't need to put their fans and put themselves through the heartache and turmoil and play for 90 minutes.
Aubameyang is a player that we talked up as being very important to the Arsenal cause. Chris, he wasn't there in this game. He wasn't needed. Arsenal showing that they can do without him.
Showing that they can do it without him, but I think in as much as it was a good game for Arsenal in the end, I think they lacked a bit of bite out front without Aubameyang. And what he brings to Arsenal in terms of goals, I don't think they'll be able to soon replace. Like we talked about last time, I think he's got almost half of the goals for the entire season have been scored by him. So in as much as, yes, they'll be able to carry on, I think it's a matter of also possibly bringing in someone to replace him and actually plug that gap.
That Aubameyang, yes, he's scoring goals, Chris, but he hasn't brought any of those goals after the break.
He hasn't brought any of them after the break, but I think Arsenal as an entire outfit has been lacking after the break. And you can, in as much as he can create chances and manage to score those goals on his own, I think Arsenal as an outfit hasn't been fantastic.
Well, Barry, talk of Thomas Partey coming from Atletico Madrid. He's one of the most coveted talents in European football, a genuine world-class player. Absolutely outstanding for the Black Stars and, of course, for Diego Simeone's men. If Arsenal were to get this guy, this will be something of a transfer coup, surely.
It would be a coup, and it would be beneficial to Arsenal like you wouldn't believe, because we all know the importance of that particular area of the pitch. The holding midfield role, a central midfield can swing games, can turn games for you, and Thomas Partey is that sort of a player. He can do exactly that. We notice how the impact that Wilfred Ndidi has at Leicester, the likes of N'Golo Kante when he's played in that position at Chelsea, and when he is in Jorginho when he plays in that position. So that area of the pitch, if they can seal this deal, it'll be a statement of intent, a transfer coup, and immensely beneficial to Arsenal.
Mentality, though, I'm just sitting here thinking, here's a player who's leaving Atletico Madrid. If I had to pick the better footballing project, I would see Atletico Madrid as being a better team than Arsenal. Their pedigree in Europe over the last few seasons and even their league performances in Spain show that they're a better team than Arsenal. And there's Thomas Partey, one of the most coveted players, and he's opting to choose Arsenal, Chris. He's opting to come to Arsenal. And so for me, I immediately think that perhaps London is the attraction more than just the football. So, guy from Ghana, English speaking, has been in Spain for quite a long time, and he wants to come to London. Yes, he's going to put in a shift, but I think his main attraction is playing in the Premier League.
Definitely, and I think that's the case for a number of players where some of these moves it's almost a lateral move. It's not necessarily an improvement in terms of the teams that they'll be playing for. And I think that's the biggest attraction, is playing London, playing the EPL, and that's what the attraction would be for a player like Partey.
Yeah, and we saw the same thing with Aubameyang as well. I mean, the lifestyle in London is certainly a lot better than in an industrial city like Dortmund, where he was based out in the Rhine-Ruhr region in Germany. And similarly as well, I think for Thomas Partey, big West African community you find in London, very cosmopolitan, and he'll find himself at home. So in terms of him adjusting to the English way of life, and also coming from Ghana, an English-speaking former colony of the United Kingdom, he'll find life a lot easier.
He certainly will, and I think that you look at the setup of the cosmopolitan nature of London, where you've got a big West African, big minorities population, many of which support Arsenal. It's a big attraction for him. Sealing the deal, shucks, it remains to be seen, because that release clause of his £44 million is a bit of a stumbling block at the moment, because many clubs are going to be balking at figures of that nature, no doubt.
That's cheap, Barry. That's cheap.
Listen,
if you can't pay 40 million for Thomas Partey, then there's something wrong with you. Because you want to know what I think? He's worth Thomas Partey right now is, I'm going to say this, he's better than Pogba. Okay?
He is. Yes, yeah.
He is right up there for me with probably the best holding midfielder in European football right now. So for you to get him for 40 million, Barry, that's a song. because this guy is worth 80, 90.
No, but that's the release clause. That's the
So get
release
it.
clause. Who knows what they're gonna ask for?
Yeah, but once he agrees beyond that,
let's
No,
say,
but you trigger
maybe
you
80.
trigger the release. You trigger the release clause if the player wants to move. Then Atletico Madrid don't have the power to charge more than the release.
hold him back.
Yes. I think they only have power if the player is not interested. I think we go back to the Luis Suarez situation at Liverpool, where Arsenal then bid the extra £1 on top of his 40 million release clause. And because Gerrard managed to convince Suarez not to go, then Wenger found himself in no man's land because he had to up that. That's why J.W. Henry tweeted, "What are they smoking in London?" Because they had to nudge it up significantly. It became almost like, hey, listen, Liverpool, you're going to have to sell him to us, because if we give you enough money, then you sell him to us. But as long as the player wants to go, and in this case we are hearing, I mean, his father has already come out and said, listen, he wants his son playing in London. His son is interested.
London,
I think they'll get the man for the 40 million that they're probably asking for. Let's take a look at the other FA Cup quarterfinal results. Manchester United, late goal by skipper Maguire to beat Norwich 2-1 on the East Coast. Sheffield United, like we said, beaten by Arsenal 2-1. Leicester, beaten by Chelsea 1-0. And Manchester City, too good for Newcastle 2-0. And of course, the semi-final draw was done. Manchester United drawn to face Chelsea, and Arsenal will play the holders, Manchester City. Very interesting one, this one, Chris, because we could end up with a Manchester derby for the final.
Yes, and I think it'll add a little something to the FA Cup. The FA Cup's one is, traditionally in the last few years, it's one of those, it's the little extra that happens during the season. And I think having that kind of a matchup will definitely attract a lot more eyes to that game.
Barry, I mean, the other three managers need silverware, isn't it? Just to give hope to their fans. You take a look at Lampard, he needs this. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, he needs this. Arteta, he could do with this. Pep Guardiola, it's a nice to have, but they are the favourites to win it.
Absolute favourites. They're the defending champions. Looks like they will be able to defend it, because if you look at the form team of the four, it's got to be Man City. They are spellbinding when they're on their game, and they are always on their game. So regardless of who runs out, Man City goes in as favourites, and I foresee them defending successfully their crown.
Okay, there's some Premier League action this midweek, but let's give you some results. Two matches played over the weekend. Aston Villa beaten by Wolves 1-0 in the Midlands derby. Southampton too good for Watford 3-1. Watford just 1 point above the relegation places. Your action this midweek tonight, Crystal Palace will entertain Burnley at Selhurst Park. Tomorrow it's Brighton welcoming Manchester United to the South Coast. On Wednesday, Bournemouth versus Newcastle. Arsenal versus Norwich. Everton versus Leicester at Goodison Park. And at the London Stadium, it's a London derby, West Ham versus Chelsea. And then on Thursday, Sheffield United will welcome Tottenham Hotspur, and Manchester City versus Liverpool, where Pep Guardiola has promised a guard of honour.
In Spain, Real Madrid manager Zinedine Zidane has refused to get carried away after his side moved 2 points clear of Barcelona at the top of La Liga last night. Los Blancos were level on points with the Blaugrana after the previous match day, but they took the first position on the virtue of the better head-to-head record this season. Quique Setien's side had the opportunity to put the pressure on Los Blancos with a victory at Celta Vigo on Saturday, but they failed to do so after nemesis Iago Aspas scored a late goal in a 2-2 draw. As a result, the Madrid Giants managed to bridge a 2-point gap at the top of the table with a hard-fought 1-0 win over Espanyol, where Karim Benzema produced one of the moments of the season, a back heel to set up Casemiro for the one solitary goal that secured the victory. Let's hear from Zizou.
Nosotros sabemos que esto se va a decidir al final de temporada.
We know this isn't going to be decided until the end. And, as always, we know this is a very difficult league, and it's always fought for until the end. I always believe that. The 2017 La Liga we won, with me and manager as example, was won in the final game of the season. Something similar is going to happen this season. We played 5 games and got 5 wins, and that motivated us, but nothing changes. There are still 6 finals to go, and we have to rest well. The next game will arrive quickly.
Chris, the much maligned Karim Benzema continues week in, week out to show that in truth, the man that they thought was just going to be a bit part player is actually carrying this team. Karim Benzema has been fantastic for Real Madrid.
Definitely, and I think he stepped into a role that people didn't expect him to take up. A lot of people weren't confident in his ability, and his ability to be consistent, I think, was more the issue. And that's what he's managed to do, is he's managed week in, game in, game out to actually make sure that Real Madrid collect as many points as possible throughout, which is what they need at the moment. And what they wanted was to be able to get that lead, and that's what they have at the moment over Barcelona. So kudos to him for actually managing to carry this team forward.
And this team, looks like they're doing pretty well, getting results where they need to. And would you agree with Zizou not going ahead of himself, possibly with a look towards Thursday, where they take on Getafe at the Bernabeu, and then they've still got to play the Athletic Club, which is a team that's been fantastic since the restart, Mike. Caution on Zizou's part, you'd agree with that?
Absolutely. I think I keep pointing to the fact that, listen, they've been unable to shake off the poorest Barcelona side we have seen in 12 years, if not longer. This Barcelona side has been bang average, and the very fact that Real Madrid are just 2 points ahead of them just shows you that it's not a great Real Madrid side that we are talking about. We're talking about a side with similar struggles. But I think the difference between Barcelona and Real Madrid right now is that Real Madrid has got multiple sources of goals, whereas Barcelona are very much reliant on Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, and after that, it gets a bit thin as to who chips in with the goals. When you take a look at Real Madrid, Benzema scores, Sergio Ramos is able to score, Hazard is able to score, Toni Kroos is able to score, Isco is able to score, Asensio is able to score, Casemiro scores from central midfield. Marcelo weighs in with goals from left fullback. So they've got a lot of people who are able to chip in with goals. And so Real Madrid are able to cash in on the chances that they create and are able to win games. Games that they don't necessarily dominate, like the game versus Espanyol. It's a game that Espanyol deserved to get something out of. But Real Madrid were able to score that goal because they were able to create that moment of magic, that backhill assist from Benzema into the path of Casemiro, who was able to tuck it away for the solitary goal. So that's the difference between those two teams. And also, just to speak on Karim Benzema, I think if you have to name the 10 best players in world football right now, you've got to put the name Karim Benzema in there. If you have to talk about the 2 best players right now, obviously the best player in La Liga is Lionel Messi by some way, by a country mile. Yeah. But after that, it has to be Karim Benzema. I can't think of any player in La Liga who's been as outstanding as Benzema. So he's continued to do. Here's the thing. I think a lot of people were critical of Benzema because he lived in the shadow of Cristiano Ronaldo. And that's because he did a lot of the work. That's because he did a lot of the donkey work for Cristiano Ronaldo. And now he's managed to come through and he's delivering because he's now stepping up as the guy who's leading the line at Real Madrid.
And step up he has, most certainly. And to exemplify Mike's point about goals coming for Real Madrid from all areas of the pitch, Chris, they did a study and the statistics show that I think it's maybe 2 or 3 players on the entire squad list of Real Madrid who haven't scored a goal. And those are fringe players who aren't getting a game. So if you run on the field for Real Madrid, you're likely to get a goal. And that's sort of, I suppose, the way that champions are supposed to play. Get goals from all over the pitch, get them however you can, and get the win.
Definitely get the win and manage to pick up those points where it's critical. Like Mike was saying, these are not necessarily this is not necessarily a great Barcelona side that they have to beat. But if beating them to the championship involves making almost everyone on the field managing to get those goals, and that's what they need to do. That's what Real Madrid is going to do.
Okay, quickly, key results from La Liga. Atletico Madrid beat Alaves 2-1 at home on Saturday, while Sevilla missed out on an opportunity to move up to third when they were held to a fourth consecutive draw in a 1-1 stalemate against visiting Real Valladolid. Tonight, the match is Getafe, who host Real Sociedad.
Quick wrap of Italy and Germany, starting with your Serie A results from this weekend. Brescia and Genoa came to a 2-2 draw. Cagliari beating Torino 4-2. Lazio beat Fiorentina 2-1. AC Milan 2-0 against Roma. Napoli won 3-1 against Spal. Sampdoria going down 2-1 against Bologna. Sassuolo and Hellas Verona sharing the points. That was a 3-3 draw. Udinese going down against Atalanta 3-2. Inter Milan beating Parma 2-1, and Juventus registering a big win against Lecce 4-0. And in the Bundesliga, Robert Lewandowski has been named Bundesliga Player of the Season. Mike, if you take a look at those 34 goals for Bayern Munich, definitely deserved, and he's shown up as one of the best strikers in Europe.
Yeah, absolutely. A goal a game. 34 matches played over the course of a Bundesliga season. He scored 34. So absolutely fantastic for him. No doubt the most outstanding player in the Bundesliga and in, of course, at Bayern Munich. And no doubt the best number 9 in world football at the moment. And he's got to put his hand up. I think he's the front runner for the Ballon d'Or. If he's able to sort of like carry this form into the Champions League and Bayern Munich win this competition, then I think he will be right up there. I think he will be leading Lionel Messi in terms of the running for a Ballon d'Or.
Congratulations to FC Bayern Munich, champions of Germany. 34 games played, 82 points in total. And joining them in the Champions League will be runners-up Borussia Dortmund. RB Leipzig has got themselves into the Champions League again, and then Borussia Mönchengladbach snatching that last Champions League position. Sadly, Bayer Leverkusen miss out and they drop into the Europa with Hoffenheim as the 6th place finisher in the Bundesliga. Falling away out of the top tier of German football, Fortuna Düsseldorf has been relegated, as well as Paderborn. Werder Bremen, they look like they were going to be cut adrift, but they've managed to get themselves a playoff spot, and who knows, they might yet still be in the Bundesliga come next season. All done and dusted in Germany. The other leagues will no doubt follow suit momentarily. We've got to go. We'll catch you tomorrow for another crackerjack edition of ZiFM Sport at 6:05 for Top Hit Tuesday. Don't miss it. May God richly bless you. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Mandy, out.
And it's Messi! It is the cleanest of clean finishes from the best on the planet.
The biggest sports stories.
Liverpool, the champions of Europe, are top of the world.
The biggest interviews.
That such a great spectacle is ruined by such thuggish behavior.
And all the analysis right here.
He's the one player that has the arrogance to think that he can play in any stadium in the world and any pitch in the world in front of any player in the world and take them on.
Every weekday, it's my sport, it's your sport. It's ZiFM Sport on ZiFM Stereo. My station, your station.